as Ben Baby, ESPN, joins you now here on 105.3 The Fan. And a good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Always good, as a Metroplex guy, it's always good to be on in the Metroplex, so I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, it's good to hear from you again, man. Good to see that you're having fun covering this Bengals team. Are the Bengals going to be another one of these Super Bowl losers that missed the playoffs? What's your sort of knee-jerk from week one?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for me looking at that offense was there were some things that were concerning during that postseason run that they almost won the Super Bowl in spite of, if we're being honest. That propped up again in that opener against the Steelers. We saw a little bit of offensive inconsistency. We saw Joe Burrow kind of struggle with some turnovers. Now that got better in the second half, and then in the red zone, they were just unable to get touchdowns out of drives and heavily relied on their defense to keep them in the game. And so I think those are some things the Bengals will really need to address. And even that would have been the case had they beaten Pittsburgh in that ridiculous game that we saw in week one. But, I think this team feels like they're in good shape, that the defense is as good as we thought they would be after last season. I think we all know what Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase bring to the table. We'll see where T. Higgins is at, if he's going to play after he left last week's game with a concussion. So, the Bengals opened as a touchdown favorite against the Cowboys, obviously with the backup on the road. But, it's going to be very interesting to see, because I think both of these teams really could use this win and don't want to, have a rough start to the year.
Ben, Zach Wolchuk with you. Appreciate everything you're doing out there covering the Bengals. Texas high school football mafia for life, though, my friend. And I do want to ask you, you mentioned T. Higgins and the concussion. How are the Bengals looking health-wise as they get ready for week 2 against the Cowboys? Cowboys dealing with a lot of injuries before this one.
Yeah, as you properly mentioned, once in the mafia, always in the mafia. So those are facts. Secondly, Higgins was limited today. He was really the main injury concern that we were looking at. There were some guys who were starters who landed on the injury report but were full, so they were probably just nicked up here or there. Trent Taylor, their starting punt returner, he got extended a little bit. He did not practice today with, I believe, a hamstring injury. But all in all, a pretty healthy team, as we saw my colleague Todd Archer mentioned on their injury report that the Cowboys released. The Cowboys are dealing with a significant amount of injuries, especially after week one, and I think that is going to be something to monitor as we go through the week. But it is only Wednesday. I think once they don't practice on Thursday, that's when you really want to take note of these things. So I think it's something for both teams you'll want to just continue to monitor as the week goes on.
Ben, when we watched the Pittsburgh game, though, the pressure that the Steelers were able to generate on this Bengals offensive line has to be very concerning to the staff in the way that, the Cowboys, maybe a little bit of a strength for them will be their pass rush. Any thoughts about the Bengals and how they looked in week one with that offensive line?
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought definitely in the first half, things did not look great. I thought you did see a good amount of pressures. In the second half, though, I thought that the line did a better job. I thought Joe Burrow actually had some better pockets than it looks like, and maybe there were just a lot of different things going on in that game. We asked the coaching staff today, and we just spoke to Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan, and he said that obviously the sacks were too many, but I think that proportionately that only a couple of them were really firmly placed on the offensive line, and those looked to be early in the game. And considering they played 100 snaps, I think that it could have been a little bit better, and I think they will want it to be better. But all in all, it's definitely an improvement for what we saw last year. Obviously, you would expect that to be the case given what the Bengals invested into that offensive line, including La'el Collins, who they got from after Dallas let him go in free agency, coming in to be that right tackle. And, we'll see how much he's going to be matched up against Micah Parsons. I know that Cowboys fans are going to be eagerly looking at that matchup on Sunday.
Ben Baby covers the Cincinnati Bengals for ESPN with us here in the GBag Nation. I saw you had a great article about what defenses are doing to Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense right now. Could you share with us a little bit? It seems like defenses are doing similar things that they've done to Dak and the Cowboys now for the last 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, I think it's, the mark of really a good quarterback in the NFL at this point is how much cover 2 they're going to get and how explosive you are as an offense, because teams, obviously, they're going to play those 2 high safety looks to try to take away those big plays in the passing game. And we definitely saw that the way the Bengals were played towards the back half of last season. And coming into this year, they knew that they were going to get a lot of cover 2. In Pittsburgh definitely showed that when you look at the coverage rates. Pittsburgh played a good amount of cover 2 and took away some of those deep balls that Joe Burrow wanted. Obviously, Burrow tried to push some tight windows early in the game and just was unable to do so. And in the second half, you saw him look for his check down options, look at, getting Joe Mixon involved in the passing game, getting Hayden Hurst involved as well, the former first-round pick who signed with the Bengals after previously being with the Falcons. And I think it's going to be a lot of that. And really, last year when you look at the numbers, the Bengals, after they weren't explosive in 2020, were one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL in terms of being vertical in the passing game, led the NFL in yards per passing attempt. And this year, the question is going to be, as defenses look to take that away, as they look to bracket Jamar Chase, and especially if you don't have T. Higgins, are you going to be able to move the ball systematically down the field and methodically? And that is going to be the thing that the Bengals are going to have to do. And I think that you're going to have to get defenses out of those cover two shells. You're going to have to be able to run the ball well. You're going to have to take what you can get over the middle. And then whenever those opportunities present themselves and you've schematically gotten some good windows against those cover two looks, you've got to take advantage. So those are all things to watch, and I imagine the Cowboys and basically every defense that you'll see will incorporate a lot of those cover two looks, a lot of those cover four quarters looks throughout the season, and to keep those wide receivers at bay.
Ben, you mentioned run the football well. The Cowboys, especially to Trayvon Diggs' side, they were a little susceptible against Tampa Bay. It didn't seem like Cincinnati ran the football very well against Pittsburgh. Mixon and Pirine, it seemed like they were really good in terms of receiving in that one. How efficient do you think the Bengals' running game can be?
Yeah, it's really going to be fascinating. I think in an ideal world for the Bengals, you're going to try to, as with most teams that you'll see in the NFL these days, you want to try to, get a good advantage early on in the game and then seal things off with your run. I think the concept of establishing the run is kind of a preconceived or kind of an outdated model, if you will, of how to win in the modern game. But that being said, if you do get a lot of cover two looks and you are getting light boxes, which the Bengals do get a good amount of, especially when you look at the width of their formations. I believe they were second widest in the NFL, if that's a proper way to say it, in week one. So I think that when you look at what Zach Taylor's done since he's been here, and honestly what I've seen, even especially anybody who watches high school football on Fridays knows this very well. I think, making sure that you do what basically the box tells you to do is key. So if you have a advantageous run look, take advantage of that. If not, see what you can get in the pass game. And the Bengals have definitely adhered to those principles over the last few years. But all of that being said, I think they will want to be better in the run game. You have Joe Mixon, who has coming off a Pro Bowl year. And, it's interesting. I'm curious to see what the Cowboys are going to get on the run game on the other side of the ball. I asked DJ Reader what he thought of Ezekiel Elliott, and he said, even though the numbers haven't been there on tape and on Sundays, he's still the guy that many people around the league believe him to be. And I know it's been a hot-button issue in Dallas in terms of Zeke and Tony Pollard and their usage. So, it's going to be something to keep an eye on both running backs on Sunday.
It's Ben Baby here on 105.3 The Fan.
Hey, Ben, when you look at the Bengals defense and, with Trey Hendrickson and stuff like that, the guy that kept popping out for me watching the game on tape and stuff was Jermaine Pratt, the linebacker. Is he one of these guys, he's 6'3", 250 guy, the ability to make a lot of plays for you guys in these games?
Well, not me specifically, but yes, for them, that is correct. Yeah, for the Bengals, those backers are pretty good. Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt, and I kind of joked with DJ Reader, who was usually traditionally he plays nose tackle or kind of a one tech, two tech for the Bengals, and I joked that whenever the linebackers get an extension, they better end up getting a nice gift to that defensive front because the linebackers are almost always free. The defensive tackles, when you look at B.J. Hill and Reader, you really do command a lot of your attention, and so the backers are going to be free to make plays, and they drafted Logan Wilson in the third round in 2020. He's proven to be a very good addition, and then Jermaine Pratt, a fourth-round pick, I believe, in the 2019 draft, has played very well and really gotten, I think even when he started out as a rookie, was really good in the run game, but he's gotten a lot better as an all-around linebacker, and those two guys, are very much overlooked in this scheme, but I think a lot of that front is a very sound unit up the middle, starting with Reader, who got a big bag in the 2020 free agency window. I think that all starts with him, and that's why you see a lot of plays, in the middle of the field. But, the Cowboys are going to have to contend with those linebackers. We saw Pittsburgh and offensive coordinator Matt Canada run a lot of misdirection early and try to stretch the Bengals from side to side. We've seen that be a tactic from opposing teams against Cincinnati, so we'll see how much the Cowboys use that on Sunday.
So when referring to Cincinnati, it's not you guys because you still consider yourself a Cowboy guy. Isn't that right, Ben?
I technically do not have a rooting interest team. It is also a misconception because they believe I'm a Cowboys fan. And I always tell people, I said, if you're going to properly do the job, you ain't rooting for anybody.
No, that's right.
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, no, you're a pro. So being a Metroplex guy, do Cincinnati folks come to you as like an insider on weeks like this or stories with the Cowboys?
It's interesting. This beat has almost doubled over the last couple of years. I think most people are just looking at me for food wrecks, and I try to explain to people, I said, I lived there last in 2019, which might as well be a decade in Dallas years. Like when I used to work for the Denton Record Chronicle, I remember I used to cover, high school playoff games. We'd drive over to McKinney or Prosper or whatever, and we'd take 380. There'd be nothing over there. I hear of cities that people are moving to now that I would never think of in a million years. I said, you're moving to what? You're moving to where? It is just, so when people ask me for recommendations, I was like, yeah, I lived there a handful of years ago, but the amount of growth that you see in the Metroplex is just absolutely dumbfounding. I think we were talking about Prosper specifically. 10 years ago, they were a 4A high school back when Davis Webb was there. Now they're going to, I heard, Matt Stepp, my guy, said that they're going to open the third high school coming up a year ahead of schedule, which is just mind-blowing. So I try to tell folks, I said, I will give you some recommendations on places I like, but it's just how much the Metroplex grows. And I take a lot of pride in the fact that, I try to tell people all the time, I think the resourcefulness you see in DFW, that I feel like across the entire Metroplex, there's always a desire to say, much like the Jones family does in everything they build. Unfortunately, that doesn't extend to the team, but it's how much better can this be? Can we make this kind of the biggest thing we can, and where can we improve in this regard? And that's definitely been the case when you see what they've done. I think I tell Bengals fans, if you haven't had a chance to visit the Star, you definitely should, because it's a model of what you want your NFL practice facility to be. I think people are going to be real excited to check out AT&T if they haven't for the first time. So there's a lot of things. So when they ask me for those kind of recommendations, that's what I give. But otherwise, that's kind of all I'm good for at this point.
Yeah, take a drive down 380 now, Ben. It's going to blow your mind. What is your review on the Skyline Chili?
Yes.
All right, hopefully, if you're from Cincinnati and you're listening, cover your ears. But I cannot. I've got to stick to what I do down
Here we
south.
go. Yeah.
So I listen. I rep very hard for the good meats and the meat-based foods that we get in the great state of Texas. Now, people here do enjoy their Skyline. For me, I always explain. I can do it in a Coney because like chili dogs. That's a common concept for us down south. Mm-hmm. You'll do that all the time. But in Cincinnati, because the chili isn't thick enough, it runs on it's on spaghetti.
Exactly.
So it's a water-based starch and you got a water-based kind of meat product, like a meat sauce. It's not thick enough. If the meat sauce was thicker, it would be a better meal. And so that is my big beef with the whole situation. But I get it. I try to explain. People they think Whataburger's overrated. I said, y'all better stop that right now. Otherwise, we're going to have some problems.
I'll fight them all.
Think it's just, exactly. I said, if you want to catch these hands, say one more thing about a patty melt, and something's going to happen. So I think it's just people want to get defensive about their regional foods, and I can't blame them.
How much Whataburger is Ben Baby going to consume this weekend coming back to the DFW?
So it's actually funny. I've got a packed weekend. I'm going to be in Las Vegas Friday, Saturday for Canelo Alvarez Triple G3 at T-Mobile Arena, covering that for ESPN, because that's going to be an amazing event. I think that'll honestly, the buzz you get from a fight like that exceeds the Super Bowl, in my opinion. So I'm excited to be out there. I think it's going to be a terrific fight. Getting into Dallas on Sunday morning, going to go get me a honey butter chicken biscuit. Might see if I can skip the line at Hurtado and then get in at AT&T. So I'm excited. I'm going to try to eat as much food in DFW as I possibly can.
My guy. They got the spicy honey butter chicken biscuits now, by the way, Ben, so maybe give those a shot. Not bad. Not bad.
Hey, you don't need to rub it in. There's not one near me, so please don't rub it in while I'm that far away, okay?
Hey, we love you, Ben. Go Mean Green, baby.
Hey, go Mean Green. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all having me.